What's good, everybody? This your boy Paul, sitting next to Hassan, and my man Robbie J. And this is part two to questions that people are afraid to ask white people.
Hey y'all, just want to ask real quick if you could to follow us on Instagram. The details will be in the video. Follow us on Instagram, like, share, subscribe. Love to see that on YouTube. We're also on Spotify. We're also on iHeartRadio. Check us out. We really appreciate it. And your interaction helps the podcast to succeed. People think, oh, I just watch a video and that's it. No, if you watch a video and if you provide a comment, if you send us an email at info@blackchatpodcast.com, we can read those. We can get better at our craft, get better at what we're doing. We want to provide you with quality content. So appreciate you all continuing to listen. And let's get on with the episode. What you got for me today, Paul?
Yo, I got some stuff for you today, but
Yeah, I bet you do.
nothing crazy.
Mhm.
I just want to find some things out because we deal with a lot of stuff, and so I believe it's time to get a little serious on like a few things.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
No, we do a lot of coke and joking, but I do got to ask you a question though.
All right, go for it.
I seen that the new Captain America is on Disney Plus.
Oh my God.
Have you watched it yet?
No, I told you I hate Marvel. I don't know. I don't know how I can convey that in another way.
It's a good one.
I hate Marvel. I despise it.
But what if your
Yeah.
kids ask you to watch it with you? You're still, so what you gonna do? I mean, if your kid asks you, hey, watch it with me.
So if my kids want to watch it, of course, absolutely.
Gotcha.
I'll
All right.
absolutely watch it with them. You know, I'm a big believer in I don't get to dictate everything in the family, that some things we're going to let the kids have an option on, especially with movies. If there's a movie they want to, like Lilo and Stitch, we went to see that recently. I didn't want to see that. I don't care. But in the same, I mean, the previews were pretty funny. I'll give it that. But the preview was what was funny in the movie, so I didn't laugh once. That's unfortunate. But they got to dictate that. I was fine with it, you know. But there's some things you can do for your kids and just suck it up sometimes.
I got you.
Yeah. But yes, we will watch that.
So-
My concern is how long Red Hawk's in the movie, bro. I heard he's in there for 5 minutes. That's not really very
No,
interesting.
it was good. But my
Yeah.
question is, what would you do if your children say, Dad, this is the best Captain America ever?
Well, first I would say he's black. He's not Captain America.
I knew.
And the second thing I would say is that he's Falcon, and I don't understand why we keep doing this kind of silly stuff. Like I mentioned on the previous episode, if we had a white Black Panther, what would it be called? White Panther? It would be silly. It's silly.
To be completely real
Yeah,
with
go
you,
ahead.
I have seen stuff going around, and it has
I don't like that.
social media in an uproar where they're trying to cast Ryan Gosling as Black
that.
Panther.
Oh,
I've seen
get
that.
out of here.
I've seen that.
No, I don't like
And
that.
then the funny thing about it is you got people saying like, oh, they turn Little Mermaid black, they turn Cinderella black. Why we can't have like a white Black Panther?
Because it's called Black Panther.
Because it's
Yeah,
called
it's
Black
called Black
Panther. It's
Panther.
called Black
That's right.
Panther.
Mhm.
Well, a lot of people don't understand though, for real though, there was a Black Captain America.
Mhm.
Okay, well, it's not for me. I will give you one. So I thought about this, right? Because to be fair about it, I thought about this. So I grew up with watching Justice League Unlimited and Justice League. I don't know if you watched any of those
I did.
cartoons back in the day in the
I did.
2000s. They were
I did.
freaking excellent.
Mhm.
So as you know, there were many iterations of Green Lantern.
Mhm.
One of the best was John Stewart. Absolutely, hands down, the best, in my opinion, Green Lantern, which hasn't been turned to film. They keep using Hal Jordan. I don't really care. So I think it's cultural as well. I think it's the time frame that you grew up in. So to me, Green Lantern's always been a black guy, and that's what I look for. So if I don't see that, I'm just like, I don't really like this iteration. It's not for me. They also ruined the movies with a, I
But
mean,
there-
it was
but there
garbage.
are black Green Lanterns.
Yeah,
There are a bunch of them.
right. I know.
The
That's what I
aliens
mean.
and everything.
Sure, that's fine.
What about a black Superman?
No, I don't like it.
Man of Steel.
Yeah.
What about Man of Steel?
That was the Black Superman.
Mhm.
They called him Man of Steel.
Okay.
Let's just turn all the characters black. See,
That's right. I mean, that's really kind of my thing when we talk about Marvel and stuff like that. Why are we doing it? Is always what I come back to. Is it because the character is popular? Like, I'll give an example that's not race related. Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is dog awful. It's a terrible character. Carol Danvers sucks. There's no one that I know that really is like, oh my gosh, a Carol Danvers movie? Oh boy! Like no one cares. But yet they kind of don't get upset. I'm just telling you, like when they shoehorned her in that before Endgame, I was like, I don't care. I didn't even watch it. I still to this day haven't watched Captain Marvel. I don't care.
but I like it. I liked it.
I watched it with
Oh,
like I
goodness.
mean
I actually liked it.
I watched it with my family, and
Yeah.
my daughter actually enjoyed the movie. Like she liked it.
That's okay if your daughter likes it. I mean, we just had that conversation. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell people what they can and can't like. I'm just saying it's not for me.
Gotcha.
I don't like
Hey, it's not for everybody. I get it.
Like it.
Oh, like it.
I got it. It's not for everybody.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look post Endgame, Captain Marvel made $1 billion, no doubt about that. But post Endgame, they had to bring in other characters, and the movie still failed. So she can't even hold her own movie. No one's interested in that character. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm just saying box office wise, Carol Danvers is not a seller. She's just not.
Okay.
And we can look at that. I mean,
Well, I didn't like the first Black Panther, so
Oh God, here we go.
hated it. I will not watch
I
it.
still don't get that.
I watched
man.
it once.
That's one of the most popular movies of all time.
Didn't like it.
Okay, I don't get that.
All
I
right.
loved it.
On that note, let's get to the episode. All right,
All right, man.
y'all ready for this?
Ready.
Man, oh man, like you got the questions, don't you?
Yeah, but I mean, I haven't looked at them in a little bit. I want to keep it fresh, bro. I don't
Let's
want
keep
my
it fresh.
reactions to be rehearsed.
All right, so I got a question for you. So
Yep.
look at it like this. We deal with a society where, and even like where we work, you know what I mean? Mental health is a big thing,
Yes.
right? And we deal with a lot of people that take their lives. And the word suicide. So I did a little research and I found some crazy stats. Suicide is the 11th leading cause of death in the United States. Now, granted, they have not really updated certain things, so I just put it out there. But what I was able to find, the latest of 2023, that was 49,316 deaths by suicide in America. 1.5 million suicide attempts. So that was 14.21 per 100,000 people in 2023.
Okay.
In 2023, men died by suicide 3.8 times more than women. White males accounted for 68.13% of the suicide deaths. Firearms accounted for 55.36% of all suicides. My question is, why do you feel that white males have the highest suicide percentage? What is it that causes them to take their lives? Like, granted, men, like blacks commit suicide, women commit suicide, but it's astounding how the white male percentage is that astronomically high. Why do you feel like that's the case?
Well, I'll not to answer a question with a question, but and I think this kind of gets to my point, which is, what is white culture? Right. No one knows. I don't know. I don't know what white culture is. So when I look at the issue, I think culturally speaking, I would say that brown people, black people, whatever we talked about in the previous episode, brown is apparently what Hassan prefers. But you all have a strong culture. You have a strong family dynamic. You have something that you can rely on, say Black Pride or whatever it is, or working to strive as a community towards something. I don't really see that collectively as a white person. So I think, and folks may disagree, that's perfectly fine, but I don't really see a white culture at all. I'm not saying that doesn't mean that white people aren't the majority in the country. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying underlying culture. What is our culture? If you look at Asian kids, what is their strong reliance on as a culture? Education. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
Whether that's a stereotype or not, I don't think it is. I think some stereotypes are just true just based on the facts. So they have a hard reliance on performing well, on studying. They have a hard reliance on making sure that their elders are respected in their society. I don't see that with white people. And I think that's basically where that comes from. When you have nothing to hold on to, when you feel like you're just being blown around, or you feel like you don't have a place to stay. I also think, and this will be controversial, which is that white men are, I think, blamed for things that they haven't necessarily done. And what I mean by that is to say, historically, you could look at things and say, well, white people did this, white people did that. But I do think that as a generational aspect, when you look at older generations are different from younger generations, but yet younger generations are actually living with that guilt or living with that association with slavery or with things like that. And I think for older generations, that's certainly fine because they have a lot to answer for. But for the younger generations, we've talked before that there's inherent bias towards Black people within our culture. We'll never get rid of that. But I do think that there is an expectation that these generations right now will have to suffer through what their parents did. And I don't necessarily think that that's fair. So I think each generation's accountable for what they've done, right? And if we've seen movement towards more acceptance, things like that in our culture, it's certainly not perfect, but I do think that that underlying, I think, affects people's, especially white men's mental health. Now, I can't speak to that. I don't really feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to hypothesize what I think it could be.
Right.
I don't know that I have a direct answer for you other than to say that white men are rudderless. They don't have, who would you name as a leader of white men? Jordan Peterson, maybe. I don't know. Like who would you put out there to say is a someone that people aspire to be as a white person? I don't know that I could name a single person off the top of my head.
I mean, like, I can understand that because if you look, like, I sort of understand your point. I mean, that's quite interesting. Haven't really thought of it like that. But at the same exact time, with a follow up, don't you think that although the older generation did do a lot of damage and do a lot of things to Black culture, even if you go look down in history, Indians, just like we talked about in a couple of episodes back, someone want to call me out because I brought up the Tulsa Massacre, Black Wall Street.
It was interesting. I looked at that over the weekend. Thank you. No,
Yeah.
seriously.
So yeah, but if you look at it, a lot of things that have been done has been done predominantly by white people.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
I totally
So-
agree with that.
So when you think about it, and even that, even those that are still along, a lot of things, some of the stuff is passed down, is taught.
Yep.
So do you feel that the reason why they're trying to erase a lot of things is to get rid of the evidence of what they've done?
Get rid of the guilt.
What do
Yeah,
you mean?
Because
Expound.
they must, I heard this before that a lot of Black people believe that things that were done to us, they want to erase it to get rid of it so that they won't feel guilty about it. And with that being said, who do you think should answer to it? Because in every other, I'm just going to call it a massacre because we were massacred.
Mhm.
In Africa, here, when the Jewish people received all of their, paybacks or their reparations, they received theirs. We never received anything. We were promised it, but we never received it. So who should answer to it? Who should answer for that? If not the current generation. Not saying we're going to pinpoint, oh, Rob, your family did this, not saying that, but who should answer?
Gotcha. That's the question that we all want to know.
Or do they?
Even me, I don't even know
like,
what the answer to
That's
that
the
is.
issue. That's the problem. We don't know who should answer.
I mean, I look at it from a religious aspect. So follow my logic with this. So, everyone has their own religion. I'm a Christian. I think that Paul is as
I'm
well.
Christian.
Hassan's mediocre. I'm just kidding.
Wait till someone hears that.
No, but I mean, the three of us on this panel are Christians, correct? So
Mhm.
when you stand before the throne. My question is, are you judged of the sins of your collective ancestry, or are you judged on your own sins?
It's your own sins.
That's correct. So using that as kind of my inference for this type of question is, I don't have any accountability except for what I've done.
Mhm.
So if I have treated someone, if I owned slaves at one point in my life, I would be accountable for those things. I totally agree with you. Now, to Hassan's point, as a country, what do we collectively owe? I think that's a hard question, because is some payment due? We did promise 10 acres and a mule.
40.
Oh, excuse me.
There's 40 acres of mule.
Yeah.
Sorry. See, I'm already trying to whitewash history as they do. So I know that was what was promised, and that was never given, right?
Mhm.
So what is that debt over an accumulation of time? I don't know, and I can't answer that question. And to Hassan's point, how would we even go about making sure that was done in an appropriate way? I don't have an answer for that. I really don't. I think it's a great question. I'm willing to deep dive on that in a future episode
Yeah.
for the folks that get mad at us that we don't deep dive into
Yeah.
things. But as we said, these are general questions.
Yeah, like it's general, and I'm just trying to change things up, because mental health is a big thing, man. I mean, and we hear about it and see it every day. You have people from young to old that take their lives, and I found that quite astounding that the number was that high. So,
I mean, there's no doubt that in the United States we have a mental health crisis. There's
Absolutely.
no doubt about that, and that's universal. The interesting thing that I find is that the mental health crisis keeps getting worse, but in the same respect, people are also more encouraged to seek out mental counseling and things like that. It's an interesting dynamic. How does that work? How do we have a society that's more accepting of seeking out mental professionals, things like that, to get yourself in the right space, but yet we have an increase in suicidality around the country? I don't know. It's strange.
so I do believe that could also be based on pride too. Some people don't have the willingness, or feel like it's easier. It's like, to be honest with you, it's extremely hard to make the choice to go talk to somebody and feel that they're going to help you, or have faith in the fact that they're going to be able to help you. So some be like, forget it, I'll just go ahead and do this. So it's a hard choice. Like, you don't know what a person is going through.
Sure.
But I did find those numbers. And that was in 2003. 2023. I can imagine what they are now.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting.
Yeah.
It really is.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I found the question.
Oh, okay.
Oh, please.
Okay. Dope.
Now, do you think, or do you believe that white privilege is real?
I thought we covered this in the last
No.
episode.
No,
We really didn't?
No, we didn't.
No.
Oh, okay. I think it depends on what's happening. We talked before. Paul's like, what the hell? We talked before about interactions with police. Is there a white privilege inherent with interactions with police? Seems so, based on what I've seen. But do I think that being born white is inherently something that gives you a privilege or a leg up in all situations? Because the problem is generalization, which I get into. Now, there's some things I'll generalize in life. That we all do it, right? Everyone's into generalization. So I always like to say, for me, generalization is, if 51% of people do it, then I get to say that all of them do it. So like I mentioned in the previous episode that I think that baby boomers can be selfish. I think there's more than 51% of baby boomers that are selfish. So I'm just saying that. So that's kind of how at least Robbie J relates to the world, is that's my marker. If I can say that over 51% of anyone does anything, then I get to say that they do that. White privilege, though, is kind of it's kind of ethereal to me. It depends on the circumstances, what I would say. You could point to certain cases that have happened in the country and be like, do you think this is an example of white privilege? And I could say yes, no, yes. That's easy. But just saying that it exists is like saying, well, all black people are violent. That's what it says to me. It's too universal to be anything that I can actually grab onto and say, yeah, that's reasonable to me. I don't find the question reasonable. I just don't.
So let me ask you this question then,
Sure.
right? And it's still along the white privilege thing.
Yep, sure.
So you heard about what happened in Burke County, right? Waynesboro, right?
We'll go through it for our audience.
So, now granted, the guy that was a black guy, he made everybody mad on social media by some of the comments and things that he said. He had a white girlfriend. She murdered him.
Mm.
So, like she said, like the story is like they got into it at the bar. She was cleaning her gun, shot him. He died.
Yep.
But she didn't get charged with anything. Like she walked.
Yep.
And a lot of people say because her father was, like a sheriff and everything, but
Okay.
she walked. You don't find like that's a part of black privilege?
What does that have to do? What does
Wh-
that?
white privilege.
Yes. What does that have to do with her race? You just gave me a qualifier which said that her dad was the sheriff, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, logically, I would say because he has power and influence in that particular town, that's probably more likely. Not saying that, I mean, if you give me a qualifier, I got to run with it. So my thing is, if you gave me the situation and there was nothing other than, oh, she's just a white girl, can she get away with it? Sure, maybe in this case, absolutely. But I think it should be case by case. Go ahead. You were going to say something. Cut you off.
I'm keeping my mouth shut.
No, why? This is what this is about, Paul. You can say whatever you want. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
No. So look at it like this.
Mm-hmm.
If that was a black woman
Okay.
and a white guy, she'll go to jail for that.
I don't know, Paul. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's you. I'm not saying I know that she would.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I know she wouldn't. I don't know. We're not in that. You can, and this is my thing when we're having the debates and stuff like that, which is what we should be doing. But I can use 100 different anecdotal evidence to prove whatever I want, because you can't debate someone's feelings and you can't debate someone's perception of reality. You just can't. That's why, like, when we have this next episode that we're going to film, we're talking about the Department of Education. Those are fact-based discussions.
It's fact-based.
We can have those discussions, but I just think that you can pull out tons of cases to say that this proves my point. And I would say absolutely. And I think that I could do the same thing. I could pull out a ton of cases and say, well, what about this situation? You could say, well, I don't know. I just think we could go back and forth like this all day.
Well, what was that guy that I think it happened in Arizona. I forget the guy's name. But I have to look it up. But there's a certain person that did something, and they know he did it. Like he murdered. I forget the case's name, and it's gonna drive me insane. But I digress. Like I can't bring it. Like I can't talk about it because I don't know the guy's name.
There is a case where a black guy was working on something outside of his house, and his white neighbor, I don't know what happened between them. He shot him. He didn't kill him, but he shot him.
Mm-hmm.
And the police says, oh no, they don't want to go up in the house because they don't want to cause anything. This went on for weeks or months, I think, and they didn't do anything. They eventually got him, but they held off for a long time because they said they didn't want to endanger him or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that when we have these discussions, is racism a factor? Yes, sometimes. Is it always a factor? No. I look at the Uvalde Police Department as a great example of folks that were worthless. And each one of those, let's look at the camera when I say this, each one of the police officers involved with the Uvalde scandal should be thrown in jail and have the keys thrown away. Every one of them deserves to go to jail for letting those kids die. That's number one. So, when we're talking about Uvalde, there was a school shooter who went in, started killing kids, and they hung back and did nothing, and they let the massacre continue, doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's an example of extreme prejudice on the side of the police, where they didn't even care that school children were being killed. What the absolute hell! So I think there are many examples we can bring up. I'm gonna give you one that I think proves your point, or at least goes in your category, which is the Ahmaud Arbery case, right?
Yeah.
Where you're looking at that. I think that that's a great example of racism dictating whether or not that these two folks, two white guys in a truck, chased this guy down and shot him. There's no reason for that. It's outrageous. And I do think that's an example of racism. So I do, you're not going to get me. I'm not going to be the white guy that sits here and says, no, this never happened. Oh, I don't believe any of that, because that's ridiculous. I do think, as I said before when I brought up different cases going around the country. When we have, like, I could point to the Austin Metcalf case, who's in Texas, who was accused of stabbing the white guy in the chest. We don't know the full details. Let's wait for the court case to come out. That's how Robbie J does it. I'll wait. But aside from that, you look at the GoFundMe for Austin Metcalf, and the comments in there were racist as shit. I mean, you got, oh, kill all white people. So I could use that as an example of, well, I mean, you talk about us, but you're kind of acting the same way. But I don't think that serves anything, because those are comments based on just a couple people's opinion. What we tend to do in the United States is say that the 10% is indicative of the 90%, and I don't like that.
Because the 10% are the ones who's getting the most attention.
And that's absolutely correct. I totally agree. So you have those racist comments from white or black people in those instances, and we focus in on that and say, well, everyone's like that. Mm-hmm. So as I said, generalization-wise, I like to focus on the 51%. Do I think 51% of white people are racist? Absolutely not. Do I think 51% of black people are violent? Absolutely not. So I'm not going to make those generalities, but I will stick with the baby boomer thing, which is going to get me in trouble.
Let's go to the next one. This is a good one. This is a real good one.
Oh, shoot.
Rob.
I'm ready.
Would you switch places with a black person if you could?
No, because I have white privilege. Do I get to pick the black person? I mean, seriously.
No, you just become Black Robbie J. Same Robbie, but black.
Everything stays the same. My family life, all of it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't I just be code switching right now?
No. You would be black. I said, wake up and you're
no, but how I talk. But how I talk, I'm code switching, right? Because I sound white right now. Yeah, right over there.
I'm fine.
I don't know. It's a weird question. I mean, would I want to be black tomorrow? I mean, I like being who I am. I don't know how to answer that. And I know, Paul will flip this around behind me and be like, well, you know why you don't want to be black, because you're going to get stopped by the police as soon as you leave here, and they're going to pull you over and put you in cuffs. I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting question. Yeah. I kind of like being me. I like my heritage. I like my family. The other thing that the question doesn't answer is, if I turn black, is my family still white? That's awkward. Like, how the hell does that happen? Was I adopted?
ChatGPT is racist, man.
Yeah. This next one is even worse.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
All right. So look, I'm going to ask my second question.
Please.
Not the heavy one. All right. So this one is about sexual abuse, child predators, right? So I know here where we are, one of the high schools that we deal with has had a few in the last few years. The one recently was, like, we just had one like a few months ago. The guy was put on leave of absence. School is going to remain anonymous. I'm not going to put it out there. But once again, facts, right? So, which, even with the facts that I pulled up, was kind of crazy, right? So, let's start with this. It's a 93.6% of sexual abuse offenders were men. 57.5% were white. 16.1% were black. 12.1% were Native American. 11.8% were Hispanic, and 2.5% were other races. Now, there's a breakdown for it. This is show I'm equal opportunity here. So now 74.6% of the offenders of the cases involved in production of child pornography were white. Right? And then 53% of the offenders in cases involving travel for prohibited sexual conduct were white. 27% were black. 61.3% of offenders in the cases involving criminal sexual abuse and rape were Native American. That I didn't know. I did not know that. 65.4% of the offenders in the cases involving abusive sexual contact were Native American. And 84.6% of the offenders in cases involving statutory rape were Native American. The average age was 38 years old, right? So we all have kids.
Yep.
And so when you dealing with stuff like that, when you're dealing with people that are legit predators, everything from white to Native American. I know this is supposed to be questions for you to ask white people, but it's going to be a two-parter. Number one, as parents, do you know your child well enough to know when something is wrong, for one? Two, although other cases, like I can't talk on Native Americans because it's supposed to be a white question. So why is the stats for white men so high in that regard? I can't, like, black men are just sick. Like, I get that you got some sick individuals.
Yep.
And then what is the obsession with child pornography?
So if I could tackle those individually,
Go
I'd
ahead.
appreciate it. Okay.
Go ahead.
So your first question was, if you could reiterate, please. What's your first part?
So with those numbers
Mhm.
and child predators being a very big thing,
Yes.
do you know your child's body language to understand when something is wrong, if they have been touched, if they've been harmed? Are you able to tell the difference?
I think this is a difficult question, and this is why I'm going to say it's difficult. I think most parents would answer in the affirmative. Yes, I know my kid well enough to know what's going on.
Mhm.
But that would be indicative that we could solve 98% of all these cases. And I think in general, you have a lot of abuse that goes on that is unreported and that people never find out about. Maybe they find out 30 years later, well, my uncle was doing this or that. So I'd like to think that the answer is yes. I have as you do as well. We both have very Hassan too. We all have very close relationships with our kids. So I'd like to think that I would notice behavioral changes. But I think what people get wrapped up in, or what could be a cause for not noticing, is the fact that kids go through developmental phases.
Mhm.
So when you're a younger kid, you may not be able to put into words appropriately what's going on behind the scenes. Likewise, when you're a teenager, you have a mood shift, let's say with your daughter. Well, my daughter has mood shifts every hour. So it's hard to say whether or not that's related to abuse, whether or not that's related to her going through hormones or going through her first period. How do you quantify that? I mean, as we've talked about in our off time together, we have those family conversations over the dinner table, right?
Mhm.
Like we have those in-depth things. So I do think I'd be able to spot it because I believe that I have a closer relationship with my kids than some other folks. It's good to have a panel full of men that agree with me on that is key, especially with our social media discussion, to making sure that our kids are safe and well taken care of. But I do think there are instances where it slips through. I just do, or else we would see um, a much greater rate of detection of perpetrators being arrested. But I think, and I hate to say it, in a majority of cases, that you have a lot of folks who get away with it. I also think that it depends on the power dynamic. So you have your uncle who is doing something untoward towards you. Um, First, it's your uncle. So you have to deal with the family ramifications of reporting that. And, if you're really young, you might not understand that. But if you're a teenager, you probably do. And you're just like, well, if I report my uncle, my whole entire family is going to implode. Am I really going to be responsible for the destruction of my family? You see how nefarious and evil it is to put a child in that situation? Because what happens is the dynamic turns on the kid. The kid thinks, I'm going to destroy my family. I'm going to out my uncle. My uncle will be in jail. And other than this, he's been very nice to me, because they don't understand. In their head, they think, oh, my uncle, he gives me treats and stuff. He takes me out to ball games. Because it's a manipulation thing. It's the power dynamic. So as the uncle in this my situation, he knows exactly how to exploit this kid and make it work in his favor. That's the danger. That's the evil inside of it.
Mhm.
And I think that's what makes it difficult. So I'd like to answer your question as yes, but that freaks me out. I do, and I'll be straight with the audience and with you. I don't let my kids be alone with anyone unless I am 100% sure I know everything about them.
Right.
There's no way in hell, even picking them up from school, it's an absolute no for me. My wife and I will pick them up from school. Even like just doing, like, we had an option to send my youngest on a camp overnight with some church people, and I was like, no, it's not happening. If I don't know everyone that's going, the answer is absolutely not. Until I can trust that you are able to report that you have a strong enough sense of self. Like my daughter is awesome, she really is. I trust her in an overnight camp with the church folks, with people her age, because I know, first, she'll probably kill them, and secondly, that she would definitely be someone I could trust to report that back to me. So that's a long-winded answer to get to your main point.
No, like that's a great answer. I mean,
Okay.
And what was the second part of your question, mate? I'm sorry.
dang, you just made me forget with that one.
I think you answered both of them in that.
No. So all right. So no, like, I think I got it. But geez, I wasn't expecting that one. That was a legit answer. But before I get into the second part, me personally, I
Yes.
don't care. I'll tear down my family for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I would tear it down. Like
Yeah.
honestly, like I would. And I believe my kids do realize that when it comes to them, I don't play no games. It's them over everybody. It's them over everybody else. If someone hurt them, and if it's a family member, they know I'm gonna tear it. Like I'll tear the family down for them. That's just me. But I do legitimately respect your answer. So the second part of my question was because child pornography.
Yes.
Why do you feel, or what is it that makes you think that child pornography is so high amongst that demographic?
I don't know. I mean, as a white guy, I mean, that doesn't really particularly interest me, so I can't answer that question. Um, I have no idea. It's a great question. I mean, I do think we've seen a rise, and not to turn the subject, I will address your point. But I do think we've seen a rise in the last 10 years or so, that there seem to be a lot more female teachers that are abusing kids right now. So we've had this assumption, as it were, I think collectively, that, well, men are abusers and men will use the power dynamic to do what they want to do. But from what I'm seeing, and again, this is all these things are anecdotal, right? I'm not coming in with major statistics. Oh, 60% are women. I'm just speaking off what I've seen, and again, we can't debate what I've seen because it's what I've seen, not you. But I do think that there seems to be, at least generally speaking, that there are a lot of women who are being accused of that now and getting in major trouble. It's very strange. So what is the shift in that? Why did that come about? Hell if I know. I don't know. I do find what we've seen is that evil will wrap itself in the sheep's clothing. I mean, the Bible talks about that. It's infiltration. The devil knows what he's doing. He's not an idiot. He knows exactly what he's doing. What is the best way to have access to children? Probably to be a teacher, probably to be in some sort of clergy, probably to be in some sort of youth camp. They're not stupid. It's not like, well, how do I get involved? How do I find children? They already know that there's not a man in a van that's sitting on the side of the, that happens, but that's rare compared to what we were really seeing, which is evil infiltrating. And I think that's what people have tried to to kind of bowl over is that's why I don't like slogans. I don't like the thin blue line, pisses me off. I don't like Black Lives Matter. I don't like all of these inferences where we're grouping ourselves. We're saying, these people are always right. We got to trust all nurses. We heard that during COVID. No, get bent. I'm not trusting anyone. First off, if you're in a collective, if you're a police officer, it doesn't mean you're a good person. In fact, I might look at you twice because you're in a position of authority, and evil knows how to use positions of authority to abuse others. And that's the concern that I have, which is that just because you have a badge doesn't mean shit. It means that I'm going to look at you probably double time than I would anyone else. I don't trust you. I don't trust you if you're in the clergy. I'm sorry if this is offensive to people. It's just the truth. If you're in a position of power where you have access to my children, you better damn well be certain that I'm going to be double checking you. I'm not going to just assume that you're great just because you put on a piece of clothing that anyone can put on. So we got to get away from that in our society. I don't like this collective crap.
I like it. Nice. No, like you have no rebuttal to that. That was a nice answer.
Well, I think he's not in that life, so he wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
He can explain it because I wouldn't be able to explain it if it was asked towards me. I don't know.
No, like I mean,
watch it.
I
I
have
don't
no
look for
idea.
it.
I mean, like, no, we don't know, but it's crazy that like these stats are out there. So there's people that are literally tracking this type of information.
that's
You know
right.
what I mean?
And they
So
should. And they should.
right. And so like just like look at the subway guy, Jared. I mean, like he went down for seriously, it was
Yeah.
child pornography. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And so this is one of those things. And then I read something because we were talking about people of authority and the power. Epstein.
Yep.
It was 14-year-old kids that he was parading around to like a lot of these people of power.
Yep.
So like I just find that kind of astonishing. And then there's and for some, I know some people think of sexual abuse or perpetrators as one thing, but there's different forms of predators and sexual abuse. And I do believe that we as a people need to be mindful of the different things. And we also need to be mindful that it's just not our kids. We gotta pay attention to like everybody. Sisters, brothers, wives, like whatever. Just gotta be mindful that there's people out there that don't have our families or our best interests at heart.
Totally agree with that. I think it's reasonable.
So this is a little heavy episode for the second part of questions that people are afraid to ask white people. But if you got any comments, drop them. If you got any questions, DM us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you at the next one. Black Chat out.